We're rolling
let's
now,
do it.
but here's your introduction.
We're rolling now, Jay, and you're walking around.
You're good.
That's a guest user. You couldn't even put your name in your lazy club.
I did. I put Justin Igualada Bite Force. It just didn't fucking work.
Fucking Microsoft.
I like that.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Shin Gear. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
Shin Gear keeps me warm and dry. That's all that matters when you're waterfowl hunting.
It's going to be a cold weather coming too, thank God. We sure need it.
Not wet.
Well, it's going to be raining too a bunch. They just upped the rain chances, so we'll see what happens on Sunday.
All right, well, we'll see. All right, on with us today, we got Troy and Justin from the Lost Monster Files. Discovery season wrap. Season 1 is done. And I got to tell you, so some people might not, it aired Wednesday, but I'm going to go ahead and give a little spoiler. I was not expecting a fucking alligator in the caves in Arkansas.
I don't think any of us were expecting an alligator in the caves over there, to be quite frank.
Yeah, I have to admit.
But at the end of the day,
very interesting.
What is...
At the end of the day, anything could... I mean, we don't know exactly the background of that thing. Could it have got in from somewhere else and migrated from south? Yeah. Could somebody have had one up there and fucking dumped it? Yeah, it could have happened. But it ended up where it ended up, and I'm glad we did find it, because... At least now the little dude is safe. Little dude, I can't really say little dude. The big guy is safe, because in that cave he wouldn't have made it if he couldn't get out.
He was big.
What was he eating in there? I mean, I know y'all
probably nothing.
Now we probably nothing. A lot of people don't understand. Alligators can go almost 2 years without consuming anything. So he probably slipped down in there. Justin and I were trying to find an entry point to that hole early on. They really didn't show a lot of that. You got to remember, again, I'm going to elaborate on this. We were out there for 3 days straight, underground, 8 hours a day. But we were out around the outside of the mouth of the cave filming, because it's not like we just walked in and go, oh, shit, there's an alligator track. I mean, we had to go this way, and then we had to light this way, and we had to do the safety shit and all this stuff. But when we were up top, there were a lot of holes, and the White River is not far from there. And the pond that Justin was into is not far from there. And I think they showed where there was some seepage. Now, I'm not saying that pond absolutely fell into that area, or it was being spring fed through there and shot down through the cave, obviously, we don't know, but it was within the area. So he probably fell down in there somehow, along with the other ones that, we found some other carcasses of animals in there. Obviously we talked about that, bats and some other things. And he probably just was trying to find his way back out. And alligators will keep going to where they smell or look for water, as Justin will probably tell you. And he was just in an area where there was fresh water. And I think but you don't understand. There's no light in there. He had to feel his way around and go by his military senses, I guess, his crocodile military senses, I guess, as it was dark.
Yeah, best guess for me is he probably wandered in there. Now, mind you, we got as much coverage of that cave as we possibly could, right? But there was still so much. There were so many openings, and there were so many of these little spots where, if you really wanted to get into it and squeeze your body to the ground and, kind of swim your way through and whatnot, which Troy's not about that life, you could get into other openings, and the cave goes and goes and goes and goes. We got a small portion of it. So he could have, found a waterway that, either enters that cave, or he could have slipped into it, or just entered some spot that he knew and get stuck. But once he gets stuck, I don't think he was eating anything down there. He was out of place. It's too cold down there too. So if he was in there for a while in those temperatures, he's not going to want to eat anyway. You know what I mean? It's just too cold. So he was probably honestly just looking for a way back out.
Yeah, because Troy, you had said whenever y'all got to the gator that you could see under its chin where it was basically bumping into shit.
Sure. Yeah, and they're dragging around and they kind of lift their head up a little bit. If you ever see them walk, they kind of drop their head down so their chin kind of hangs. They're kind of like big floppy, And I think he'd bump into stuff or drag, and it was all rocks. I mean, There was a little bit of sand here and there, but it was mainly where he was all rocks. And I was really concerned about when we got him, when Justin grabbed him, obviously for Justin too, to jump down on an animal that big, a thrashing, a wrong move, or shove his knees into those rocks. And I mean, the rocks were starting from 2 inches thick and jagged to 4 inches. So now you're on an animal's back, and he hadn't had contact with, well, God knows how long. So when that happened, we're like, well, if Justin jumps on us, while we were getting everybody back, because you never know. And if he has to quick dismount or bust his knee out, I mean, there was a lot. It was. I can tell you this, Justin, it's never been done before. Nobody has ever climbed on the back of an alligator 200 feet underground. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, I don't
Never.
think so.
That's the first time in history. We really were lucky in that aspect that we found it, because for us, we really wanted that we really wanted to prove that we just know what we're looking at here. And it's not going to be a neo dinosaur or whatever, that Gowrow or whatever. And if you look up the origins of how it got the name, it's clearly an alligator call. They were just trying to put words to the way an alligator would call. And I think that we really needed it. And when we found it, it was like, we did it. You know what I mean? It was like, because every time you watch one of these shows, and I can, with the viewers, I know it's always like, oh, the distance Troy and Justin walk through the woods. What was that? Right. Bye, Velveeta cheese. So when we finally found something, we're bringing the viewers like, okay, this is it. Could there be something else? Maybe. I mean, I don't know, but other animal wise, or was there a boogeyman? Sure. But we found what we were looking for. And Justin and I knew that there was a gator in there. We just know the prints. It's something we know. We've known all of our lives, and I know exactly. And we just knew it. And they wouldn't let us reveal too much. Even when we were filming, they're like, we know you guys know what it is. We understand. We broke it down behind the scenes. Like, we're going to find an alligator. That's an alligator sign.
Oh, I got you. So you knew that there was something in there. You knew it was a gator in
Absolutely. There. Absolutely. When we first saw that, I looked at Justin. I'm like, okay, now we have to pretend that we don't know.
Right.
Because we want to give it to the audience. But we knew there was something going to be in there. And I was hoping, now we did not know we would find it, but we knew that it was an alligator. And that's why you'll hear Justin when he goes, well, I know what it is. Or Brittany's like, it's not up for debate. He goes, because we had to contain that, because it's like when you're waterfowl hunting or you're deer hunting, oh, that's a deer track. Oh, that's where a deer's chewed on that, or he's scratched that with his horns.
You've been after it your whole life. Like you said, you've been around these animals forever.
How much did this gator weigh?
Right. I think he was right around 400 pounds.
Yeah, I'd say 375, 400 pounds for sure. He was healthy, so he couldn't have been in there for, a huge extent. It's not, I don't think he was in there for years or anything like that. Maybe a couple of months, a little bit scratched up. And then too, it becomes this thing like, they have to put a show together, a beginning, middle, end and stuff. And that's not the only thing we found, doing all this stuff. We found a bunch of other wildlife. It's just stuff that didn't make it into the show. So we have it like on, the behind the scenes stuff with like finding porcupines or whatever other wildlife that's in the area, sea lions, seals, depending on the location that we're at. And a lot of that stuff didn't make it into the show because I guess it doesn't fit quite with the storyline or whatever. So we did find a lot of wildlife, but for this one in particular, when we saw the tracks in the beginning, we really wanted to be able to dial down. And coming to the last day, because that's what people don't understand too. We're funded for this project. We have to go out there and find something. We're looking for what Brittany's looking for and giving her the benefit of the doubt of like, this is your side of beliefs. This is our side of beliefs. We're the wildlife guys. You're the cryptozoology person. So we're trying to go off your research, but at the same time, I have a logical brain. If I can't see something, then I don't believe it. You have to put it in front of my face for me to say, okay, I'll shut the fuck up at this point.
Or we already know what those animal marks are.
Right, which we did, and then the funding is only for so long. So as much as like if we got really lucky at the end of the day when we hit the split and we finally found enough tracks to kind of give us because if he would have went on some more solid ground where we didn't get that, like if we lost those tracks, there would have been a chance maybe we didn't find that animal. So on the last day, like, yeah, we're getting a little bit nervous. We only have so much time, and it's not like they're going to be like, hey, we'll give you more to stay here for longer or whatever. If you think this is here, if we don't find it, we don't find it. And I think that was really important, number one, because we got to, save an animal. And number two, we got to a point where I don't know, because I don't watch a whole bunch of these other shows, but I don't think anybody else has ever found anything to that level to even point to like, hey man, like people are seeing this weird thing and this is what it is. And they still left it open to say like, with all the folklore and for how long this goes back, as far as, I don't know what it was, maybe Troy does, like 100 and something years or something, 1800s this started, and with the folklore and stuff. So they left it open to say it's possible that there's still something like that in there. I don't think so. I think that what people are seeing is alligators that are, maybe too far up north, because down south in Arkansas there's plenty, and they can travel. They could travel long distances, and
especially in an aquifer.
Yeah, and or somebody just had an alligator and dumped it. So there's all these different scenarios, but I think it was highly important that we were able to get something definitive. So for me, that case is done and closed and over with.
Right.
Because a 400-pound gator is not something someone's letting out their back of their car or throwing out of their car.
No, but they could have.
That's not necessarily true. We have people steal those in Florida all the time and try to smuggle large alligators back out of the state or for food or hunt them, and so they will do that. And if they get close to getting caught, they'll just dump them.
How the hell?
How
long is a 400-pounder? How long is a 400-pound gator?
That one, it depends. Like if you have a water system where an alligator is growing, like, and it's in the Everglades and it's a flowing water system, you're going to have a longer looking alligator. Face is going to be a little bit longer. The body's going to be a little bit longer. It's going to look a little bit more thin. If you have an alligator that lives like in a stagnant pond type of situation, there's a lot less moving around. He's not swimming against current. They may get a little bit more bulky before they do long. So it really depends on where it comes from. It's like captive born animals that are raised in captivity tend to be a lot heavier. So if I have a 10-foot gator that's been raised in captivity its whole life, chances are if I catch a 10-foot gator in the wild, that gator is going to have a longer look, and it's going to be far lighter than the one that we raise in captivity, because he's eating when he can eat, being an opportunistic ambush predator, versus one that's being fed, once or twice a week. It's always got food coming to it. Doesn't have to work for it, doesn't have to fight for it, none of that stuff. So you get these differences in looks and all that stuff. But that one, where do we measure that thing at?
He was 9'8".
Yeah, so just about 10, almost 10.
And he was definitely he was not a river gator.
No, that thing came from a pond. That thing had a bulkier face.
Wherever he was, he laid around a lot more.
I'm just thinking about some bitch like me trying to fucking put one in your car to take home that's that big. Y'all talking about. I just can't imagine trying to smuggle a freaking gator out of Florida.
Well, they do.
Well, you should see how me and Troy travel with these gators, bro. Yeah. Send them the picture of Cody when we shoved them in the back. We had
I'll send you that later, Andy. Okay. You can see it.
Somebody called me one time, and I oftentimes get calls to move gators or whatever the case may be, and they'll call and say, I got a 10-foot gator. Can you take it? Yeah, I'll come and get it. And I get there, and it's usually about 6 feet. And what I do is, I had my expedition at the time. I just tape them up and I put them in the back. We had a little piece of, the chairs were down. We got a little piece of plywood so they don't get stuck in the chairs and stuff, but they just ride in the back. It's comfortable for me because I know what the animal's doing. I know it's okay and all that stuff. So Troy was with me on this one. I got a phone call for 3 10-footers, and he's like, do you want to put a board behind your seats, so they can't come up front? And I was like, nah, we're good. Let's go. It's probably going to be some small alligators. And we got there, and they were not. They were big, monstrous 10-footers. And when we got it, we fit them in the expedition, just barely. And then Troy's driving behind me, and the whole time the truck is doing this nonsense. And Troy's like, yo, what's going on over there? And I'm like, they're trying to settle. So they're angry, and they're doing their back and forth, and the truck is moving with them. But we got through it. And then when we got up north, because we were bringing them to a buddy's property, Cody gets with us, Troy's nephew. And there was no other place to sit but in between the alligators. So we shoved them right in there. Like, you're good. Just don't move or do anything.
Don't worry.
Right there in the middle.
Fuck that.
Screw that shit.
Believe it or not, it's easier than you may think to get one and put it in the back of your car. And I do it for a living, but people that aren't supposed to, they'll fucking do it.
So 100%. And then you see it all the time. Then it'll end up being a Florida Man video.
Oh, yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, do they shit all over your car also?
Not usually.
I've had it before. Generally speaking, not as often as you would think, because it's not like a mammal. Yeah. A mammal's got to go, like, we got to go to the bathroom every once in a while and all that stuff or whatever. So I got to stop to go to the bathroom more than the alligators do. I've had a couple go, and it's not pleasant. So I make sure that whatever truck I'm using, if they're on the inside of it or whatever, it's just a beat up truck. It's for transporting animals. Because when it does happen, it's fucking gross.
Pretty foul.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. But I think I've had it over the last 20 something years. I think I've had maybe 2 hit that route.
That's not bad then. That's good odds.
I mean, 2 more than I wanted,
Well,
but
yeah.
it happens.
How long did it take y'all to get that gator out of the caves?
That's a good question. And oh my God, there's a lot of reasons. Let me see how I can explain this.
I wish they would have filmed that process,
but we can't film that process because we have what's called animal rights activists.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Even though
why are you taking it out of there? Why are you interfering with its life? It was comfortable and safe in there from predators.
Fuck if it
they have no
was.
idea
From
how
predators.
And I will tell you that it was very strategic, and we had a plethora of cavers there that know the cave with us, pulley systems, a United States Coast Guard gurney, 8-foot gurney, blanket wraps. One of our really good friends came down to help us with it, and we were able to get it up. Obviously we didn't do it right at that moment. It took hours to get that animal out. So it wasn't like we did it in 10 minutes.
Right.
And there was, a really good team. And I mean, our good friend Flavio, he was there helping us, and he was our transporter, our licensed transporter. So we needed someone to be able to come get it, and he actually went through the holes in the tunnels with this thing all the way up as they pulled it. Now, had that pulley rope broke, with that animal being 400 pounds dropping on him, would have killed him in that tunnel. It would have just ground him down into like cheese. I mean, so they were really adamant about not filming that, I guess. I mean, if the people are watching or whatever. And with that, I want to say that the production crew that we did have, they have bosses, but they really did let Justin and I do what we could do as far as with animals and safety and that stuff. They didn't interfere. And they I think they wanted to do more, but there's a formula, like Justin said earlier, with the cryptid stuff. So when it comes to working animals, there's a specific way that you have to film and work so that it doesn't appear to be abusive. Mm-hmm. It's not like a hunting channel where you can they'll blow something up and be like, I got my kill, and a deal like its tongue's hanging out and eyeballs dangling, and people are like, oh, you did it, Jim. Yeah. It's not like that type of show, and those people don't watch that stuff. So when you get like a group, a demographics that's a variety, we have to be careful. But it took a while.
Right.
I just want to be clear so even the viewers understand what it means.
It wasn't a wham bam, thank you, ma'am. You got this thing out of it. It wasn't 100 yards into the cave.
It was not. It was wine, dined gently, and made love to.
Yeah. Because there were places that you had to y'all were on your hands and knees crossing through, these little places and
pulling, dragging with ropes.
A 400-pound gator.
Well, what's funny is Charlie had this layout, this program where he's laying out where we're going, and we had like a rough older map. I think they showed it on TV.
We did.
Which was way older, and there was so much more opened up. But Charlie was like mapping things out as it goes or whatever. And I wish they would have put the one part in there where we climbed through this stuff, but we're following the tracks, right? Yep. So we need to get to where he's going. And Charlie's got us on this thing, so he sees where everything's happening, what's going on, and all that stuff from his little station there. And we went through hell, and Troy doesn't like that shit. No. Troy's not the guy to go through, like where we went to the waterfall room, and I had to be chest on the ground and go in these little holes and stuff. Troy's like, not a fucking chance. You're not getting me in there.
I'm not.
So we used. I mean, it actually helped us in the long run because then we decided, hey, we'll split. Like, I'll take Britt on the smaller side, go to the other side or whatever. And when we got to these tracks, now we know that we have activity and we can go from here to there. So we go through all this shit, and Troy's like, yeah. But I'm like, dude, you have to be with me. So he's like, okay. So we go and we got him, basically army crawling through this gnarly shit. And it does get to a point where, because I'm a bit claustrophobic, so you have to kind of like wipe out what's behind you. Like, you don't want to think about what you just went through, or think about like, oh, if I get stuck, can I get back, or anything. You got to clear your mind and just go for it. And Troy did really well. Like, we went through all this nonsense, and then we catch this thing, and they cut out probably my most favorite thing of all times, because Charlie comes in from the side at like 100 miles an hour after we had this thing all taped up, and he slid. Like, he came to a dead stop, but he kept moving. Like, his feet stopped and he slid in like Michael Jackson. And he was so excited. He's like, "What the fuck?" And we all looked and we were like, "What? Like, how the fuck did you get here?" He's like, "Oh." Yeah, and he's pointing. He's like,
because
tunnel,
I got
tunnel,
mad.
tunnel.
I was like, "How are you so fucking clean?"
What happened?
He's like, "Oh, it's open right here. If you come around there, you can come right in here." I'm like, "Oh my god, here we are coming through the backside,
Right.
laying flat, crawling like this on our fingers through caves."
But if we didn't do that,
I should have
chances
sat
are
at
we
the table.
wouldn't. Yeah, well, if we didn't go that route, chances are we wouldn't have found him. Like we would have probably
That's true.
passed that area because we had been through that area before, and you don't like once you get in there, like it looks brighter on camera because of what they have going on. But like, dude, if you look at some of our cell phone videos, it's just you and the flashlight. Everything else is just black, like black. So you see the same things. And I would imagine if you spent like months and months and months, you would learn the cave. But I walk past the same thing 100 times and be like, I don't know what the fuck I'm at. You know what I mean? So
it's like that. Very optical. It's very, you remember points, but you don't remember how you got there and which hole was where.
Yeah.
And that can be intimidating. So I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm not going to be embarrassed to say I'm glad we had cavers there that knew what was going on, because these guys could get you out. Like if something happened, they know exactly how to get you out, and that's important in that aspect.
Fuck yeah, 100%.
Again, we weren't down there by ourselves, just going, ugh.
Right. Four people wandering around a cave system.
And the comments, Andy, about all of us being, oh, these guys are fake and they're paid actors. I mean, just look up our social medias. I've been working with big animals for 30 years on a professional level. That's when I use the word 30 years, I'm an old man for one. And when I use the word 30 years, I mean permitted. I'm not talking about when I was not old enough to get permits and we're still doing this crazy stuff, just in the same. And I think that, you get a lot of these guys and they think because we're not out there in hunting gear and wearing camo and G.I. Joe stuff and then covering it all in orange. I never could understand that.
I don't either.
Like, oh, let's wear all this camo shit. They won't see us, man.
Yeah.
But make sure you wear your big, bright jacket.
So you don't get shot in
Like
the
the
face
animals,
by another hunter.
Like the animals don't see it, and that's a big misconception that animals don't see color. That's a lie.
Yeah.
100%. Because you can take a big old tortoise that's supposed to be colorblind, and you can show them two things, the same thing, right? You can show them a yellow apple or red apple. They'll always go that red apple. They love that big, juicy red apple, even if it's the same size, same looking thing. In black and white, it would look like two apples, right?
Yeah.
They always know. And I find that with the kangaroos. I find that with the capybara. I've owned deer. I've owned fallow deer, and they look for specific color of grain that they want, and it doesn't matter. It can all be a pellet. But some's brown, some green. They know right what to go to when they see it. So I don't understand wearing a big old orange. I know why you have to do it.
Yeah.
So you don't get Dick Cheney. What are you talking about?
It's so fucking true. But I mean, there's just so much of that. And I think that people misunderstand us because we're not dressed like, we're not in there to hunt, to sabotage a deer.
Right.
We're in there to find an alligator in pitch black.
Yeah.
Or a Sasquatch or whatever they want us looking for. And Justin and I don't care if the bear sees us. If we're looking for a bear and they're looking for monkeys, we're looking for a bear, right? We don't care if it sees us because it gives us an advantage. Now, if we're trying to hunt something like that, obviously we're going to wear camo.
I would prefer the bear did see me. That way it hopefully fucks off.
But I mean, it's true.
Right.
It's very true. But, a lot of people they think bears, because you look at social media and you see bears attacking this person, this guy, and that. But that's very rare. For the amount of people that go into the wilderness and actually deal with a bear like that, it's rare. It's a rogue bear. Generally, you startled it or it had young. I mean, Justin can tell you that. He's worked with Ursa Day forever. He knows what they're like. And usually they're like, oh, that's bipedal. It'll kill me. They pretty much already know that we're dangerous.
Yeah.
And that we shouldn't be messed with. So
now, Justin, you had
we can thank the Bigfoots. I don't know.
You had this thing under the jaw, and with one hand.
Yeah.
What
explain the technique.
What, one hand on this thing?
Well, it's about the whole style of alligator handling that I do is to, number one, keep the animal as comfortable as possible, and then also, like, it's an alligator, they're 80% muscle. So I'm not on any given day 80% muscle. I can't fight with the alligator and win, but I have to pay attention to certain things so I can use to my advantage. Number one, I'm tall. I'm 6'4", so I have that. So when I get to an alligator, I'll make my jump, I get myself comfortable, and you'll see that I lift up on the alligator so he's poised up a little bit, and I'll pull his back foot towards me a little bit while I have one hand on the bottom jaw. Now, that bottom jaw I have, that way if he decides to bite, close down, or anything like that, he's missing my fingers and stuff. My thumb would be tucked underneath, so I'm sitting there just holding the jawbone. That gives me a little bit. He could still shake loose if he wanted to, but I have a little bit of leverage because I could sit so far back on the animal, like over his back legs, and then I'll also hook my front foot under his front foot. And that way, if he wants to roll or anything like that, he has a hard time doing that because I have my foot underneath the one leg. I have that jaw up. And then once his head is up like that, I have a little bit of leverage, and then I can figure out, where's he going to go? How's this going to work? Sometimes they thrash. Sometimes I have to let go and go back to the neck and sit down and wait for him to calm down and go about it all over again, get his head up. And it's all about getting it to a point where the animal calms down a little bit, enough so for me to get hands over the jaws so that Troy can come in and tape them shut.
Have you ever had one get you?
Oh my God. You know that he has.
I know, but I want to hear the
Never.
story.
Never, not once. I've never been
I
bit
saw
by
you
anything.
scratch your face, and it looks that index pointer finger is a little shorter.
Yeah, well,
go ahead, give him the story.
I got all of this nonsense. I've had my skull crushed. I got missing fingers. I got no right bicep. The right bicep is gone. That's been gone. My knuckles are obviously missing and shit. My thumb's been taken almost all the way off. I don't know if you could see through the phone. Yeah. You could see the little stitch marks where they put that back together. This was all torn up. There's scars everywhere. This thing was opened up all the way. Don't forget about when it rips your ball bag or tears your asshole open on an osteoderm. Oh yeah, there's that too. Like you're talking about, the back of that alligator is solid bone, and some of them are really low profile. So each little tiny square that you see on that back is one solid bone, right? Fits together like a puzzle piece. And some alligators will have a smoother one. Some alligators have some big long spikes. You get on that, and by the time you get home, your ball bag has been punched around by a bunch of bones for 20 minutes. And obviously, like in the moment, I'm not paying attention to any of that. None of that is bothering me.
So if Justin has blood in his underwear, that was a battle.
Yeah, pretty much. And you'll go home like I've had the inside of my legs had just been bruised and bloody. My ball bag's been tortured multiple times. Like you got over time, you learn to lift yourself up a little bit, but not to put yourself in a situation where they could turn around and grab, or you don't have the amount of control that you need to have in the situation to keep everybody safe around you. And that's one big thing too, is I'm more worried about the animal and everybody else around me than I am myself. Like there's a video out where I lost my finger, and like I said, you can't, like, nobody knew, because I knew I got bit, and I went and checked it because I thought it was just a regular normal little scratch or something like that, and there was just a bone sticking out. He sheathed it, so the finger's still in his mouth, and I was like, well, I guess we're done with this show. And everybody was like, what are you doing? Get back in there. And I was like, I don't know how much this is going to bleed. So we cut it off.
And they got your finger out. They got it out. That guy that was dressed up like the Joker.
Yes, they went and got my finger
out of the alligator's mouth.
Do they let?
And did.
Because you're a paid actor. Because you're a fake paid actor.
Right.
Well, if I was a paid actor, I'd be doing fucking Batman or some shit.
Dude, if I was a paid actor, we'd be doing a lot more than we're doing now.
Now, like I've always heard a snapping turtle, once it bites down, it won't let go till it lightning and thunders. And I'm sure that's a bullshit story. But does a gator let go, or does he bite and chomp down and hold it?
Depends on the situation. Generally speaking, most just want you away. Like they're not gonna take a part of you. They're not trying to eat you or anything like that. But an alligator, like, how can I explain this in a good way? I think most people that get bit by something, the immediate reaction is to get the shit out of the mouth, right? Mm-hmm. So your instantaneous reaction is to pull away or get out of the situation and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is the alligator has one of the most powerful bite forces on the planet. You're not opening the jaws. It's not going to happen. And the second you start pulling and giving resistance, now what is the alligator going to do? He wants to spin. That's what they do in the wild. They take a piece of chunk of food or whatever it is. If the food they get is big, they're going to want to rip it apart or drown it or whatever it may be. So there has been, and this is captive. I've never been bit in the wild. like catching an alligator for a nuisance situation or any of that. But doing the old style Seminole shows where you're putting your hands in the mouth, you're putting your face in the mouth and stuff, that's when things happen. Obviously, you do dumb shit, you're going to get dumb prizes, period, end of story. Like, it's just how it is. And for as long as I've done it, like, I think the odds are in my favor or whatever. I'm either really good or fucking terrible at what I do. But at the end of the day, like, I've had a couple, obviously Master Blaster, and I still have this alligator. He didn't let go. And he was so used to people that when he rolled that, he swallowed it. The gator that got my finger, he was nuisance caught, and then he got released onto tribal land over there at the Seminoles afterwards. But he was fresh, so he wasn't interested in eating anything. He bit to get you away. The finger came off. It was in his mouth. He didn't swallow it. He wasn't interested in swallowing it. So some will hold, and if you're held, then you're in there. But the best thing you can do is, number one, make sure that if that's something that you're doing, that you have the right people with you just in case some shit goes down, because a lot of people want to try and open the jaws. I don't care if you get 12 dudes, that's not happening. The more you try and open, the more they're going to crush your shit. Mm-hmm. So realistically, it's just staying relaxed, making sure you have control of the alligator so he can't spin, and then you're just lightly touching on the top of the nose and just trying to get him to open up just enough for you to get your hand out of there and call it a day, or whatever's stuck in there.
And in your case,
you get bit in the water, your chances are you're fucked. You know, in the water, like, they're going to have a little, you know, they're going to grab what they grab and they're going to do what they do. And at that point, there's a lot, you know, splashing, this, that, and the other. So you tend to see, like, people get bit on land and get let go as a warning. And then in the water, it oftentimes it's mistaken identity. Mm-hmm. You know, if I'm swimming in there, my head's above water, I look like a turtle or whatever and all that nonsense. So if he grabs an arm or something, he may be more apt to want to fight that out and get his food.
And it's spinning and thrashing and everything else in the water.
Yeah, they're a lot more weightless in the water. The smaller guys on land can spin a lot easier. The big guys can spin too, but that's a lot of weight to move around. But in the water, yeah, a big one can, you know, throw that death roll real quick.
Let me say this too. And there's going to be people that argue it because there's a lot of phonies out there as well. So they'll argue. But I will tell you that you can develop in captivity, you can develop a relationship with an alligator. A working mutual relationship. They're extremely intelligent. People don't give them enough credit. I mean, probably smarter than most of the keepers. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you that right now. So when an alligator goes after you, generally, obviously, if you get one from the wild that's not used to being in captivity, he's a little scared, he's stressed, he's going to react like any person or animal would act in any situation like that where you're unfamiliar. Somebody grabs Justin out of his house, throws him in a van. Next thing you know, he's in a jungle room somewhere, and people come in, he's going to be like, we're going to town. And then later on, they come in there, they're bringing him food and water and, you know, bring his family back to him, and then realize that, you know, he starts to understand, okay, this is a situation that I have to adapt to, and they adapt to it. And they habituate very well, and you can develop a relationship even down to not shaking the keys or how many times you shake the lock, lets them know if you're going to come in to feed, clean, cut grass. They learn this. So alligators like that, Justin's had a couple of alligators that are super cool, but, you know, that instinct that when you get grabbed, or like a big cat could be the coolest thing in the world. You throw something by, they're like, oh, they just turns on their immediate response to like anything, like, you know, anything. So alligators really have a bad reputation, and as bad as Justin has been bit by them, it's never been the alligator's fault. It's always been Justin's fault. And we always have to say that about ourselves. Anytime I've ever been hurt by an animal, it's always been my fault because I was agitating it or in a place I shouldn't have been, or I was not respecting it. And I really think I want to elaborate on that. A lot of people don't do that. You know, and then people go, oh my God, I can't believe you touched those disgusting things. I hear that all the time in my presentations when I'm working with them. You know, and then you look at them, you're like, I can't believe you have children. Somebody touched you. But, you know, at the end of the day, you can't say that. You have to keep it to yourself. You know, what do they think of you? You know, so
I think that
Justin's alligators are good. He's had some alligators that he used to just brush their teeth. They'd open their mouth and he'd be sitting with his whole arm in there. I have the videos. I sent you the videos of the,
I just saw
pictures.
that.
Yeah. So he's had some great relationships too, and there's a lot of it like, oh, he does that, he got hurt, he deserves it. No, he just works with them, and it's a passion. And I think that when you work with animals, that's what you deal with.
Yeah,
this guy has passed. I'll give you an example, see if it'll show up on the screen or whatever. But this was one of my bigger homies, and he was a solid 10, probably weighed about 600 pounds or whatever. And obviously he's just in my lap hanging out, mouth open or whatever. If he chose to at any point in time, he could turn around, grab me and destroyed me. But he was just a really, really good, he was a really good alligator.
They're all different. They're all different.
How long did you have that gator for?
What's that?
How long had you had that gator for?
He actually came in about that size. And then, like Troy said, they are extremely intelligent. So at first, he's defensive and all that. But once they learn, it's easier for me to train an alligator than it is to train a dog. Within a couple of weeks, I can get them to chill out. Once they start eating in captivity, they want to chase you around. If you got a bucket of food, we could stop that usually within day one, once they start the chasing of the bucket. And then I think I had probably... when that picture was taken, I think I had probably been with him for about 4 months, or him being with me for about 4 months. So a wild alligator, about 4 months into it, I got him sitting in my lap. And I would pick him and pull him up and put him on my lap. So when people came up to watch the show, they could see that, hey, man, it's not like a man versus beast type of thing. Like, we're working together for this. So they would come up and see him in my lap and be like, what the fuck is this nonsense? And it just gives this different perception of like, hey, this is what we're doing. It's old traditional style history that comes from the Seminoles, because they're the ones that started all those shows and stuff. And we're doing it for that, to carry on the culture. But also for me, it was to work alongside, animals that people deem extremely dangerous and or just don't like them, like they shouldn't be here, kill everyone you see type of thing, to try and change the perception, to let people know that, yes, is an alligator that size dangerous? 100%. I'm not saying it's not. Does it have to be? No. If you leave the alligator alone, he'll leave you alone. Just the same, big 10-foot alligator is a big animal, but when I'm standing 6'4" and he's standing, 2 feet off the ground or more, if he poises himself up, I'm still way tall. I'm a big meal for that thing. Right. Big crocodiles, they're going for big, huge prey and stuff like that. An alligator would prefer something that could fit in his mouth and swallow whole.
Right.
So they're not really for me for prey.
How fast can an alligator move? Can you outrun a grown
on land
a 10-foot alligator?
You can outwalk it.
Okay,
really?
I didn't know that or not, because you never know. Well, I mean, I'm never around.
If you have, my favorite joke is like, the myth is run zigzag, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's heard that, I'm sure. And I'll ask that. Anybody ever heard that you can run away from an alligator zigzag? And usually everybody's like, yeah, I've heard that. And I'm like, well, I got some big ones at home if you want to give it a shot. And they're like, what? Well, you're just showing up on one side or the other. He's still going to run straight. So you're giving me the ability to get to you. But a big gator like that, I tell people 2 rules. Number 1, if you're going to go out and you're next to the water and stuff like that, and you happen to get chased by an alligator, just make sure you have people with you, because realistically, all you have to do is stick your foot out, trip your buddy, and keep going. You're good, right?
Right.
So take a friend with you, knock them out, get them on the ground, and keep moving. But the reality of it is a giant alligator like that, in the water, there's speed. Once he gets on land, he's going to gas out relatively quickly. The faster ones are the smaller ones. Mm-hmm. So you get a 6-foot one, a female sitting on a nest. Yeah, they're going to dart at you a lot faster than a big guy like that, 150%. But generally speaking, they're going to stop at some point too. They're not just chasing you to the end of like, I'm going to chase you till I get you type of thing. Usually it's to get you away from a nest or something like that. So the smaller ones are fast, but they gas out quick.
Yeah. Well,
and to add to that real quick, it's much easier to work a 10-foot alligator with a bad attitude than a 6 to 7 foot alligator with a bad attitude.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because last time you were on, you said like that the worst size gator is about that 6 foot range.
6 to 8 feet, in my opinion. Now that may be different, but in my opinion, 6 to 8 feet, I'm always like, well, I'm just going to let Justin do most of this here, and we're going to figure it out, because if either of us step on each other's toes, somebody gets hurt. I'm serious.
Right.
You got to understand, when a lot of the problems that you find today, seriously, is guys trying to show off. With the exception of a few people that I know that have worked, Justin's worked on the reservation. A few people we know have done that. That's a different type of alligator handling. Right? When we were coming up back in the 90s, and working with them, there was a step-by-step process to understand the mechanics of the alligator first. Let's not put the cart before the horse. Nowadays, you get all these guys, they go online, they're like, oh, I saw Justin, I'm going to try it. And then they lose arms. Mm-hmm. Totally.
It's a stupid idea.
I know, and I'm not saying what you did was stupid, Justin, but that's a different technique. But you have to work up to that. Justin did just climb in there and go, oh my God, I'm underwater, and I'll put my head in his mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things to do, but these guys that want to be at me, oh, he's so cool, he's going to get 800,000 views if he does this on the internet, or let's show off to a bunch of girls, and then you're walking around, you got a nub, and you're running around because you fuck around, man. I mean,
yeah, we should preface this by saying, like, don't do it.
Right.
Like, I did it I do it, and it's got me to where I'm at, and I work with all kinds of wildlife, and with the alligators and stuff, I'll still do the shows if people pay enough. But that's how I feed my family and stuff. But at the end of the day, like, it's not really a matter of if, it's when you're going to get fucked up if you're going to try and play that game. And realistically, Troy's right. People do see things, and then they'll go out in the wild. Then laws change too. Somebody gets fucked up, they lose an arm or whatever the case may be. And that's the risk that I take for myself. I don't ask that from anybody else. I would never be like, hey, well, I do this, I can't do it today, you're going to do it today, even if you're uncomfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like Troy said,
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're on the reservations you were learning and working for shows, and people were learning. That was different. Now it's let's see how stupid we can be on the internet. I just don't understand that theory. It's not good for the animal either.
No.
It's the difference between doing it because you love what you do and doing it because you're trying to get attention for what you're doing. I mean, you either have a labor of love, or you try and get into something that, could end your life at any given point, and you're doing it for views, and I promise the views aren't worth it. Like, if I could go back in time, I'd much rather have my bicep, but shit is what it is or whatever. But it never stopped me from doing what I'm doing. But Troy was right on the other aspect too, that whoever you're working with, when it comes to like these wild guys that we got to move around or go catch in a nuisance situation, you want to trust the people you're with. Like, there's lots of communication. And if you have somebody that wants to go against the grain or you don't have that flow of communication, people get hurt. And the animal,
I'll tell you, there was only 3 people in my life that I ever get in the water with and would trust. I'll say them: Flavio, yourself, and Nate. I knew that in those 3 situations when we were in the water, that, or for any that matter, rather be crocodiles, and we've had to move a lot of dumb shit in our life. I'm very fortunate to haven't lost anything. I mean, everybody's got a job to do, and I think that there's only 3 people. Like, if Justin goes, let's get in here, because he's done that. He's like, oh, I need you and your nephew to go over here and get in the water. Now we're neck deep in the water, and this fucker jumps under the bridge, pushes them all out, and then they come out like jet skis at your face. He's like, oh, just go under, they'll go over top. I just don't want them back in the bridge. I'm like, fuck. And we did it, and it worked out. You look back, and they're like hauling ass this way. So, I mean, you learn that over the years. And I'm not telling anybody, I want to say it's because I'm not saying that you shouldn't do stuff with animals. If that's what you want to do and that's your niche, cool, man. Things that Justin and I don't do is I never want to come across. Everybody's got their own way of doing stuff and explaining things. And I do see a lot of it being wrong, especially on the internet. Mm-hmm. But anybody that you look at on the internet, I'm going to say this, anybody you look at on the internet that's condescending, talks down to you like they're the only ones in the world that know what's going on and they're the best, and they have their little weird hand movements and they act weird and creepy. Those people are fucking idiots, because nobody is a fucking expert when it comes to alligators. Nobody. Right. And I've been doing it almost my whole life. I'm 50 years old. And I mean, when I've been little, I used to get yelled at for going to the canal, and 4 years old trying to bring them over so I could see them by my parents all my life. And I would still have not yet learned everything I can. And every alligator is different, just like people. So sometimes you can't implement the same thing. You have to learn that animal and understand it. And I see this all the time, where people dictating and telling people they're wrong and you're stupid. And it's like, you're an idiot.
Right.
And if you're watching, you know who you are.
Yeah.
So,
is there any animals that scare you?
Do that for me and Justin.
Is there any animals that scare you? I mean, other than being trapped in a room with a grizzly bear. I mean,
I've been there.
That's not just scare Justin.
Huh?
Yeah.
I've been there before.
I think you'd be stupid to say you're not scared to be in a room with certain animals. If I imagine at that one park falling into that one saltwater enclosure where that cave is.
Oh yeah, no, fuck that.
I would be scared to death. I mean, just that he has his own concrete room underwater.
Right.
And that's the first place you're going.
Right.
I don't think I can point to any specific species that I think I'm inherently afraid of, where I wouldn't want to approach or see it in its natural setting or work with it or whatever. I think it would be more situational that would scare me.
Well, tell me about the grizzly bear.
Sure.
Yeah. How were you in the room with a grizzly?
I got some good friends that do some weird shit.
That
obviously.
So I have.
I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I have the permits for big cats and bears and stuff like that. So growing up, like we had Luna Bear, she's long since passed of old age, and I've worked with my fair share of stuff. I've worked at really, really terrible places when I was younger that had me get out of this business, and that was mainly big cats, bears, things like that. And then, I did another TV show back in the day where we transported a bear, and we had to get into the trailer with the bear to be able to close the secondary door. So we had to sneak through a window with, it wasn't a grizzly, but it was a big old black bear. And we had to go behind him through this side chute, have them shut that behind us so that I can run around the bear and then slam the door behind it. So, yeah, we've been in some fucked up situations.
That's
but it's
on
all
video.
about.
You can see that. That's actually, they filmed it. They put the cameras in there. So you did.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Fuck that. What about Komodo Dragon? Those scare me.
I think they're amazing, and I'll step in on that. Actually, there's some real good ones down here that a friend of ours has been working with at the Zoo Miami, and they learn their name.
Really?
They're super cool, and when you rear them, they're not like that, man.
Oh,
They are really, really. They know their owners. They're like, oh, this is where I'm at. Like, I mean, and they actually make it. To me, in my opinion, again, Justin, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think they make an amazing animal for an exhibit animal to really show up. They're just so smart. Now, they can really screw you up.
Yeah, 100%.
And I actually know, I have friends that have been bit by them that I know personally that have been bit and made it. But I mean, there's a lot to that too. There's wild Komodos versus captive Komodos. Gonna be different things. Same with poison dart frogs, etc. It's not that there's no toxins. It's just some things can be different. But what I think is interesting is they're actually really cool. Like their focus is to do what they're asked to earn their reward, which would that be their meal or whatever. And you see them do things that you would never imagine an animal like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't figure that would be very intelligent.
It's not very smart.
Yeah, I figured, like you said, just a dumb lizard.
Yeah, but reptiles are extremely smart. I try to explain to the layman people that if you understand the meaning of Star Trek, humans are like Captain Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
Like he fell in love. He was anthropomorphic to everything. The little fuzzy balls, everything he liked, he loved. And Spock's like, that's illogical. Crocodiles, big reptiles, they all, again, I'm going to say my opinion, but I think it's pretty factual. They all think very logical, right? They don't base their next move off emotion like we would.
Right.
They're very logical. Like, I have to be nice to Andy or I'm not going to eat today. I don't have to like him. Or
right.
I like this guy. He brings my wheel. I don't want to hurt him. But if he brings someone else in here, I'm killing him.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe they think that way. I mean, you're talking about an animal that can, and I told you this before in the last episode, that can control their heart with thinking. They can turn arteries off in their heart.
Really?
Well, I'm telling you now that they can actually use their brain to turn certain arteries off. They close and refunction their heart with their brain, so they can consciously maneuver their insides. And that to me is, I mean, that's a really, really amazing thing to adapt to, to be able to do. And that's, let me pump blood to my tail and my mandible and just launch with everything I got. And I used to say, wow, if we could do that, I'm like, Justin, let's go to the gym. We'll turn all the blood off except our arms on arm day. And we'll be like, fucking here, and we'll go do our, but you can't do that. And I think that there's a lot to be said about them and the way they look at you.
Yeah.
It's just a cool thing. Komodos too. They just look at you. Like they're studying everything about you.
So it's toxins in their saliva, right? Isn't that what gets you on a bite in the wild?
There's been a debate for a long time with the Komodo dragons. They figured that it was the bacteria in the saliva and all that stuff that's going to give you a nasty infection or whatever. And then there was a guy, Brian Fry, who has been doing a lot of research on the monitors themselves, Komodo dragons. I think he published some paperwork, and I'd have to really dig into it to give like a definitive answers on what the deal is. But there was a vestigial, part in the back, almost like our Gila monsters and beaded lizards that have, fangs for a rattlesnake, or in the front, the delivery system comes from the top of the head. With a Gila monster or beaded lizards, which are our venomous lizards, they have like a sac underneath their jaws, and every single tooth has a groove in it, or like an opening to basically, they bite and soak the venom versus like an injection. Mm-hmm. So that venom is soaking, and they're soaking.
You know all about that too, don't you?
Yeah, I've been there, done that far too many times. It's not a fun one.
Part?
It's not a fun one. The Gila monsters. I used to breed beaded lizards and Gila monsters, and I've caught my fair share from babies, and there's a little bit of swelling, a little bit of pain, and I had been bit a couple of times, and there was a point in time when I was breeding, and one of my males caught the whiff of another male. The female rounded the corner, and he grabbed her by the arm. So I grabbed them both, and then she grabbed me by the thumb. And my buddy was like, "Do you want me to get her off?" And I had been bit already, so I was like, "Nah, it's fine. I'll have some pain or whatever. Let me work on this." I was more focused on making sure her arm didn't get injured. Well, he had me for a good long couple of minutes. We went outside. About 15 minutes later, my buddy's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, yeah, it hurts a little bit or whatever, but I'll be all right. And then 15 minutes later, I was butt naked in my shower with people like throwing rags on me. I'm throwing up consistently. I couldn't formulate a sentence. I couldn't speak. I'm foaming at the mouth because I got nothing left to throw up. And yeah, it's probably one of the most painful experiences that I've ever went through in my entire life. And that was from, the other bites were quick little bite and release type things versus now she's soaking that venom in there. So I got a full load of that. And yeah, it was fucking fairly interesting.
You go to the hospital?
But no, there's no anti-venom for those guys in specific. They can give you painkillers, which I don't take. And, try and get on top of it. Doesn't really help. But you're pretty much like, it's basic. There's been 2 recorded deaths, and I think those are related more to, like your whatever condition your body is. Can you handle that? Are you allergic to the venom? Do you have some autoimmune, situations or whatever that might make that worse? For me, I had, having already had taken bites, I wasn't exactly too worried about it, but at the same time, like we were tracking. So the swelling is going to go up because it's a hemotoxin. It's attacking your blood cells versus like a cobra that's a neurotoxin that you could still get some necrotic tissue from a real bad bite, but it's more closing off the synapses in your brain. You get into this paralyzed mode and then you can't breathe. Your respiratory, you go into respiratory failure. And that's usually what kills you with those snake bites. There's other things too, but that's like your biggest worry with that. With the hemotoxin, you're going to get the swelling and the necrotic tissue and all that. So it was on my bad arm too. And we tracked it all the way up and figured that if it hit towards the scar area, because I only have one artery left here, that if it started swelling up towards the scar, we were going to go to the hospital just to have that figured out. But it didn't make it that far. So it was basically just, 8 hours of chewing on my own spit. It's like, shit, everybody, just leave me here to die type situation. But to circle back to your original question with those Komodo dragons, if anybody's really interested in finding that out, you could search Brian Fry, spelled just like it sounds, F-R-I or F-R-Y. And he's got a lot of information on that as far as like the vestigial parts for the other monitor species that we have and the delivery system of the Komodo dragon and how that works out.
I never knew that the Komodo dragon was such an interesting creature. I just thought it was like this little land monster.
So I always figured to it.
It is a land
like
monster.
Devil.
It's the Incredible Hulk.
And they're fast as shit from the videos that I've seen. Maybe they sped it up.
Yeah, they'll take a full damn deer out too and just knock that thing back. And too, the difference between like, I'll tell you this: I'd hate to be sick, slow, or injured by myself on Komodo Island, because then you're fucked. Because at the end of the day too, like an alligator's bite is strong, right? They got the sheer pressure in there. The teeth aren't that sharp, right? So you can graze teeth and you're not going to get cut every single time. Some of their smaller ones are a little bit sharper, but it's the pressure. You can't get away from the pressure. Those things, dude, they just barely nick you with a tooth and they're going to open you wide the fuck up.
Razor.
Because it's basically like, it's like little shark teeth inside there. They're serrated edges. They're extremely sharp. They're very dialed in, and they'll shred shit like nobody's business.
Alive and shit over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're gnarly. They're gnarly.
Like alive, that cattle, that whole scene where they eat them alive. They just start and they bite them like it just cuts through them like butter. I mean, I feel bad for the animal because I'd rather die before you consume me. But while you're eating me alive and you're watching yourself be consumed, has to be same as it would be for us, I guess.
Yeah, I saw a video of a polar bear recently, and it was eating a seal, and it starts at the back because that's where all like the fat and the nutrients are. But like that seal, like it had from basically its ass to the base of its neck just ripped apart, and that seal's just like you can just see it just trying to get away, and like you're not getting away from the fucking polar bear. But I mean, that's just nature, man.
No.
You know,
it's sad. It's a sad, brutal reality.
But, you know, It's nature.
Everything's got to eat.
Everything's got to eat. Have either one of you jacked with sharks ever?
You mean like
jacked off sharks?
No, mess with them.
Like
jacked off sharks.
Shoot a time.
However you want to do it.
I mean, we've been diving. I've been diving. I've never had any issues with them. They've come up to us. I mean, we did that in Belize. It was really cool. I mean, it was neat to see them.
Yeah, I think as far as like the marine side of things or whatever, we have that would be like where I'm lacking as far as a forte.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as far as fish species and stuff like that. Now, my uncle and father were very much into that side of things or whatever. They have far more knowledge than I do about the marine wildlife that we have out there. But, you know, I surf constantly. We've been around sharks many a times. There's been situations diving too where some will approach, especially if you're, you know, doing any spear fishing or anything like that. You got the tax collectors. But too, you know, if you know what you're working with and you know how to maneuver and not to freak out and stuff like that, like they're fairly, I don't want to say easy to get around because I don't want people just running in the ocean going, let me pet the shark, because you can get 100% killed by a shark. But at the same time, no, as far as experience wise, like very little on that end. Have we been around it? Yes. I don't know how much Troy's been around that stuff. I experience it more surfing than I do anything else, and a couple of dives where I've gotten to come face to face and kind of hang out with the sharks for a bit, but most of it's been surfing and they just kind of leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
I was out yesterday. We do the Great American Teach. So we go around to the schools and we educate with wildlife and we talk to the kids. And I was with FWC and there's a couple of guys that go out with me every year and do it. Really cool dude. One of them's a Navy. He's a lieutenant now. He's a Navy diver. And he dives for the FWC. And he told me, he's like, you know, the worst shark that they've ever had to deal with out there would be the white tip. He said the problem is with the white tip is they come in large groups. And he said, you know, they listen for, you know, we were talking about, wow, when, you know, the plane hits the water, something crashes, they know there's going to be fresh meat. He said the problem is when you see one, there's going to be about 50 more. So you're pretty much done.
Right.
Like they're coming and they just, he said the white tip for just annihilating people was really, really bad in his experience. And I think that's something to be, you know, because we always think bull shark, great white tiger.
The white
tip's one of the most, he was saying, was one of the most craziest ones to deal with, just because of the amount of them and how fast they work.
Yeah. I went scuba diving for the first time last summer, but when we were back at the dock, when we were done, the guy that took us out, he was about to do a shark diving tour. So everybody's getting like the chain mail on and all that shit. And I'm like, fuck that. No.
You wouldn't do that?
Fuck, not a shot in hell am I going to do that. I didn't want to see a shark when I was just diving on my own, much less I'm not going to get chain.
You don't want to go look for them.
I don't want to stumble upon it on accident. I'm not going to put chain mail and then chum the water and hope these things swim up to me. Ain't fucking happening.
Here, let me dangle all these fish off your giblets here. Go down there to the bottom there with these weights and wait for them to come. Give them a good old
Steve-O style.
And I wasn't a good enough scuba diver to like.
He jumps in there water.
The guides that we had scuba diving, like they would keep their arms in and like they could maneuver just by using their legs. This is my first time down there. Like I was a fish out of water. I'm flailing around like this, so I could only imagine if I'm shark diving and I stick an arm out trying to maneuver myself and this thing grabs a hold of it.
I love the term fish out of water.
Right.
More like a monkey in the pool.
Monkey in a pool. Monkey. Yeah, that's exactly what yeah, exactly. They'd be right. There'd be a Discovery show about me and my ill-fated. You
got 2 hours of air. He only had 13 minutes.
Yeah. Fuck that. I'm not going to stumble upon. I don't want to jack with a shark in its territory.
I'm gonna.
We could do Idiot Abroad Part 2, and we could all go do things we don't.
That is a good show.
That is a good show.
People need to watch that more.
One of my favorites.
I like that.
I love it.
That guy's such a twat.
Me too.
Yeah,
he is such a puss. I'm telling you right now. Before we get off here,
there was some stuff. Go ahead. Yeah,
I'm going to ask you something completely off topic of any kind of animal shit, but it is an animal who I call one of the most vicious humans that ever lived. Who do you think wins tonight, Jake Paul or Mike Tyson?
Oh,
Mike Tyson.
I think so too. I hope Tyson beats his ass.
I hope Tyson
just
wins.
Because I grew up in the era of Tyson, man. As a kid, getting to watch him just annihilate people. And what I liked about Mike Tyson is the fact that he was so damn aggressive to these people on TV that would try to poke him, you know, the interviewers, and they try to belittle him. And he's like, fuck you. I'll get up and put my whole fist in your fucking neck. What are you going to do? And he would do it on live TV, and they're like, we're on live TV. He goes, fuck live TV and fuck you. I love that. So as a kid, I'm like, yeah, Mike Tyson's the man, and so I love that. I love the fact that he was like,
he was a badass.
I think it needs to happen. These kids, what are they, the Paul brothers or whatever? It's the Jake Paul kid, and then
YouTube stars,
right? So they get a lot of this money, and then they get put in these situations that, let's be real, the normal boxer is going to have to work his way and put in a lot of work, a lot of effort to get anywhere close to the kind of fights that these guys are getting, right? And the amount of money that's coming in from these fights. And I think that, this kid's coming in and he's, you want to box like Anderson Silva, guy's been retired or whatever, and he's not a boxer and shit like that. Like you're choosing to favor the odds on your side so you can feel like a big tough guy or whatever the fuck it is you're trying to do, or just a money game. Like, let me get this guy because everybody knows this guy, and if I can fight him, everybody's getting paid. Who cares? And at this point, like, I think he bit off a little bit more than he can chew. Tyson's not,
he'll bite up. Tyson will bite more than he can chew.
Yeah, he will. I hope he bites both his fucking ears off.
In my opinion, between most boxers and Mike Tyson is, he always respected Muhammad Ali and fighters and being a great presence. He said, but he was a street fighter. There's a difference between being a street fighter and these guys that just practice in the gym all the time, or this dude, like, he came from that. That was his entire life. That was who he was. That's all he's ever been. And he always talks about fighting how's he easy. He fights his own ego. His ego sometimes gets him, and he has to tell him, sit back down, and that's a battle he's been with. So he's literally a machine. I'm still, the Holyfield thing still has me confused. I think he was forced to lose that fight. There were some deals there, and they were trying to make him lose, and he wasn't going to do it. And he'd rather be disqualified. And I think that was the deal. And he's just like, fuck it.
Did you see Jake Paul had
I really believe that
diamond-studded ear protectors on last night at the weigh-in?
He's fucking with the wrong person.
Oh,
I'm telling you right
now.
No, I didn't see that, but I figured there would be something like that.
Tyson slapped the shit out of him.
I saw Mike Tyson slap him in the face. Yeah,
he did. He slapped the piss out of him.
I saw him slap him right in the face.
Mike Tyson has had to.
He creeped up on him. He went, bam.
Mike Tyson's like an old bulldog. There's 4 of them, and they throw a roast on the ground, and they have to fight for it to survive. Mike Tyson grew up having to do that. Evander Holyfield, who I think is a really cool dude, he's got a college education. Now, I'm not saying that Mike Tyson's a stupid guy. I'm just saying different backgrounds, different how they came
his
up.
College education is fighting.
Yes, that's right. Mike Tyson is street smart, had to fight. I grew up, I'm 56 years old. I grew up with Mike Tyson as the stud when I was 19, 20 years old. Matter of fact, I dated a girl in college, and her dad and her little brother went to watch Tyson fight in Vegas, and the little brother was 13 years old, and he goes, Dad, I got to pee real quick. He said, well, let's go real fast before the fight starts. They went to the bathroom, come back, and the fight was over. It was one of them 58-second fights, where he just knocked the shit out of somebody.
He's 58 years old. He's not really that old. He's 58. I mean, listen, his shape for 58, that dude's, I wouldn't want to get in there.
There ain't a 58-year-old man going to fight him. I can promise you that.
Well, and what's crazy is how he got in shape. Like if you see him like 5 or 6 years ago, he had a belly on him. He was out of the fight game, but like now, like
he's back at it because he puts his head in the game. That's the difference.
I just don't think. I think you're right, but like the Holyfield thing. If this is a PR stunt, I think they got the wrong guy because I don't think Mike's ego will let that bell ring and then him know that he's gonna take a dive or take an L or whatever.
You got Tyson tonight?
Oh hell no!
No, I don't. I think Jake Paul wins. I think Father Time is undefeated. I know Father Time is undefeated. Mike Tyson's 58 years old. I'm rooting for Tyson. Jake Paul has some skill. He has not had to fight the way that Tyson did coming up, but you're fighting a kid that's 30 years younger than you.
Yeah, but Tyson's
pretty big. He's pretty husky.
I just hope Tyson works. Age is a big thing. The kid's a knockout puncher, but I think Tyson's going to ring his bell. I don't think this kid's ever fought anything like he is. And if he beats Mike Tyson, then he's going to go fight the gypsy guy. What's that guy's name?
He's not going to fight him. Tyson Fury? He already fought. He fought his brother.
Yeah, but he ain't going to fight Tyson Fury.
He's not going to fight. I don't think he's going to fight anybody that can beat him. Yeah, exactly. That similar age, similar skill set. It's because, like you said, he keeps fight. He fought Anderson, or he fought Tyrone Woodley, who was a UFC fighter, not known for his striking, and he knocked him out. I know he fought Tyson Fury's brother, who's pretty good, but I don't think
not Tyson Fury.
I don't think he's ever gonna fight somebody that's similar age, similar skill set.
He's gonna have to if he wants to move on past this, though.
I don't know that he really. I mean, he's getting $40 million for this fight.
I'd fucking get him the first round and quit.
Oh my god! Now you know why they're doing it.
Well,
it's always it's
so even if he loses, he's going to get 40 million, and even if Mike Tyson beats him, they're going to say that it was staged. You watch.
And Mike's going to get 20 out of this, but Mike doesn't. I mean, he doesn't give a shit about legacy. He's done it. You know, he's just in there
about that money either.
Did you see what he told that little kid?
Yeah, that was a wild interview.
What the kid said. What'd he say? What's your
legacy gonna be after this or something? Like a 12-year-old kid?
Yeah, I'm gonna die and it's gonna all be gone or something.
Yeah, he's like, I don't give a shit about legacy. He's like,
he's so straight about it.
Yeah,
talking like a 12-year-old girl. He's like, I don't give a fuck about legacy, and it's like, whoa, that's a kid.
Yeah, 12.
Easy, Tyson.
When I die, it's over.
Yeah, but I'm rooting for Tyson. That would be an animal I wouldn't
kids need to be talked to more real.
That would be an animal I don't want to come across in the wild. Mike Tyson in a dark street alley.
I'll take the fucking grizzly bear, brother.
Over Mike Tyson, 100%.
I'll take the grizzly bear.
Taking.
Well, you see the ferocity in Mike, dude. Like when you watch that dude practice and spar, like it's 100% of everything. And I know like some of the clips that they show are probably like for that to build it up, where Mike's just full all in and the speed and what he has going on and his movements and everything is so fluid. And then they show, Jake doing like a little jab, little punch or whatever. And I think they do it on purpose, basically to drum everybody up so that they can see Mike's going fucking balls to the wall. It doesn't look like Jake is. So then they build everybody up to this fight, and then there was a break between, let's call it, we'll do it again, at this point in time or whatever. Now tonight's the night, right? It's tonight, right?
Tonight, is it? Okay,
yeah, it's
what's it on?
Netflix.
They're going to do it on Netflix.
Yeah.
They're going to do it on Netflix.
So
what time's the main event, I wonder?
Oh, fuck. I think it'll probably be 10:30 or 11.
I'm going to have to stay up and watch that shit.
But now I've seen that it's going to be 14-ounce gloves, and I just looked this up. I think it says they wear 10-ounce gloves in competition. So it's going to be heavier gloves, which is going to slow down Tyson a little bit.
I hope he beats his ass, but I still hope I'm pulling for the old man.
Why do they have to wear 14?
I'm not sure.
To slow Tyson down?
Probably to slow him down a little bit.
Also, they probably don't want Jake Paul's little face getting pummeled in.
Or it might even be 18-ounce gloves. Whatever it is, it's going to be heavier gloves tonight, I think, if I remember correctly. But I mean, they're just stacking the odds for.
But why are they doing that? So that he doesn't get hurt? That's not. What's that?
Probably.
That's real, and that's not fair. Put him in 10-ounce gloves or whatever, and go out there like you should.
Probably so.
Win the fight.
Probably to give him
bare knuckle that bitch.
That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Mike Tyson just go all out, biting ears off, and just ripping guts out, throwing them in the crowd.
Old-fashioned gladiator shit. Right gladiator shit.
So, have y'all heard anything yet about season 2 of the Lost Monster Files?
Not yet. I will tell you this. I did find out today.
What's that?
That our numbers, we had some issues with numbers, obviously, when we were doing the elections and during the hurricane.
Yep.
Or I'm sorry, not the hurricane. We did really well during the hurricane. It was the elections and the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we superseded our numbers last night.
Good.
It's great.
We brought them past what we were already up, so we went right back up again. And now that we're released on Discovery Plus and HBO Max, now people can go to it. A lot of people, I found that our numbers are really good because there's a lot of people that have standard cable anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's really not a household thing. You have apps, you have Wi-Fi, and then you go, hey, I'm going to go to HBO tonight or Paramount Plus or Discovery Plus, whatever. So now that we have that, we're going to get streamed a whole lot more. And there's there's going to be, they're starting to add like the snippets and stuff in there where you can click on it and see a little bit of their behind the scenes stuff or whatever. And I just want to tell you that Justin and I were cut back a lot as far as our personalities because, like I said, they have an old formula and it has to look super scientific. They're like, you mean if Justin got bit right now by a bear, you guys wouldn't freak out? I go, nope. I'd be like, oh, that sucks, Jay. Now what are we going to do? And that's how we work together in real life. We've been there before, and that's how we are, and that's the situations we're in. And I think that you start to see a little bit more of us in how we really work in the Alaska episode. That's me and Justin, and obviously Justin shined last night from who he really was in his episode, and I think that was really who we all are, and the jokes and all that. Even we're timid because we had a great time doing that stuff, and I really think now they're starting to realize that people fall in love with the individuality of a show. Like if they watch here, they're gonna love. Oh, I love watching Andy. He's awesome. Right. It doesn't matter what topic it is. You could be talking about, diapers, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, I love the way Andy talked about them Huggies. Did you like how he said?" And I think that that's where you build up this whole group. And I think that once, and we had a large wrap party at my sister's house. Justin was busy and couldn't make it, but we all were there. We had a ton of people showed up. People I didn't even know were coming came. couple comments Justin made, everybody's like applauding in the room, like, "Oh my God, that's so," And in the end, one of the kids that were friends of ours, kids said, "I wish they just let you guys be you. It'd be so much more fun." And I said, "That's what we're going to do." So hopefully season 2 looks pretty good, to answer your question. And if it does, then you're going to see a lot more of us being ourselves and bringing a little more comedy to it. I think that's what people need these days. Just a little more fun. A little more fun. Everything's so serious.
Yeah, no shit. Justin, what was your favorite episode?
My favorite episode, as far as like watching or
like
doing,
or both.
Yeah.
I think it would be the last one altogether. The caves, even if we didn't find the alligator. Now, granted, I loved everywhere we went. I think the only, like, I've been to North Carolina before, so that was not really seeing anything new. And then Pennsylvania was okay, but everywhere else we got to travel was pretty badass. So
The
to like
Thunderbird
see,
was fun.
yeah. Well, yeah, that was in North Carolina with Jeff, and we got to see some.
No, I thought that was Chupacabra. The Thunderbird was.
Oh, Thunderbird. Oh yeah, Pennsylvania.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Arkansas.
So
yeah.
I think my favorite would be 6 all the way around. As far as, like, don't get me wrong, I love Kodiak, Alaska. That shit was awesome. But then when we first pulled up to Arkansas, I was like, fuck, man, it's hot as shit, bro. We've been like in this nice, cool weather, like for these episodes.
Yeah, Kodiak back to Arkansas.
Yeah, and I gotta sweat my balls off or whatever. And then when we found that cave, and once you get into that cave, it's 55 degrees, and you're like, oh, fucking AC the whole time, bro. And like, I've been in caves before.
Yeah,
we went to one in Pennsylvania, and where you like pay like a tour thing, but then it's all lit up. You could stay on the sidewalk. You can't go here. You can't go there. Like, this was like, we're in a fucking cave. And so I'm thinking like, oh, well, if we find something or whatever, there's going to be like lights and guides and shit. Hell no, you were underground just in a rock. And that, all in all, like, even if we didn't find the alligator, was like an added bonus all around to see how far that cave system went, and to have the ability to like go through that, and then at times question yourself, like, am I going to get lost? Am I going to get stuck or whatever? Like, it was an adrenaline rush that I don't get anymore. Like back in the day, because I surf, I did all the, growing up, I skateboarded. Now I'd rather fall in the water than on the ground,
100%.
but you know what I mean? But I'm always searching for, some sort of adrenaline. And people ask me all the time, do I get that with the animals? The answer is no. Like, I don't. I think way back in the day I did. But now it's like an office job. Like, okay, I'm here to do a job. This is what we're doing. And it's just fluid motions. It's just normal stuff. And that's with any wildlife. It doesn't make a difference what it is or whatever. I'm just in the moment. With this, there was a little bit more excitement. There was that chance, like, okay, I can fall down this 90-foot cliff and be stuck in a dark hole. If they can get me out, great. If not, I guess I'll die down there. And they told us too. They were like, once we got the cave guy to help us out, he was like, there's certain spots we just can't get you out of. So he's like, got to be careful. And going through some of the stuff and over some of the stuff we went through is just like, it got your adrenaline going. And then there was some points where I even questioned myself, like, fuck, should I turn back? Should I give up or whatever? And it's pushing yourself through that and going past that limit of your comfort zone. And I think that was the most fun out of all of it. And, but I think as far as watching, I like the Kodiak one. I like the Alaska one. They had that's
a pretty place.
A lot of different wildlife in there. They had some really cool shots on the boat and stuff. And then they showed that, the giant squid when that was discovered and stuff. So I think that was well put together, and I enjoyed watching that one. But I think Arkansas would be my favorite.
Yeah. Arkansas one was fun. Just like I said, like when the gator finally appears, it's just like a total, like, what the fuck is a gator doing in that cave? How long would it have made it in there with the temperature being 55 degrees?
They do pretty well with colder temperatures. So, like, I'll give you an example. Like, we have crocodiles and alligators here in Florida. We're the only place in the world that has both, right? Mm-hmm. So in the state of Florida, we have like 2 million plus, like 2.5 million alligators here that go all over the state. Our crocodiles are basically at the southern point of Florida because they're not as cold tolerant. Also, They like nice, quiet beaches. We got nice beaches, but nothing here is quiet. Now they're making a comeback, so they're starting to come up a little bit. And we see every once in a while an American crocodile make it up north, but that colder weather for them will put a crocodile down faster than an alligator. So we find alligators, their range is like the southern tip of Florida, all the way across to Texas, across to like the tippity top of like South Carolina into North Carolina, kinda, and they deal with that cold weather better than these other crocodilian species. So it could have they go into what's called brumation, like for these reptiles, like hibernation, we call it brumation for reptiles. So their system slows down. They can go long periods of time without eating any food. They don't lose any weight because they're not expelling the energy they need to get that food. And they know too, if it gets too cold for a certain amount of time and they were to eat a large prey item, they can't thermoregulate, which they need to do. It's a cold-blooded animal. They need the heat from the sun, and they need to be able to have that thermoregulation to digest that food. If they eat something big and they don't have that, well, then that thing that they ate is going to rot on the inside. They go septic. They'll die because they have a piece of food in there that's just rotting on the inside. They can't digest it.
Shit.
So that digestive system needs to work. So it could have probably lived for a good long time in there because it's not dropping any lower. And the temperatures aren't going to go any higher at that point either. So it would have just been a scenario where either A, it finds its way out, which maybe it did, maybe it didn't, if we wouldn't have taken it out. And then it would have taken a long time to starve to death. A long time.
So it would have starved to death before it froze to death in there.
Yeah, 55. I think both would come into play after a long period of time. You know what I mean? If it was like, months and months and months, I think both at that point, it's going to run out of energy. It's not going to be able to get himself around. They need that heat energy. Those things on its back, those osteoderms are like solar panels too. So that heat energy is giving them the energy to move, to eat, to hunt, to do what they need to do. So it's going to slow them down eventually. And then I think both the factor of probably not having a sufficient source of food and the temperatures together would probably have ended that animal's life if it didn't get a way out. And it would not be a fast process. It would be a slow, miserable process for that guy.
So where did the note we talked about running in zigzag? Where did that idea come from?
I'd like to know.
Who came up with that?
Me too. Shit.
You know what I mean? Because like, how do gators? Do they focus with both? Like, can they use both eyes forward, or are they positioned more on the side of their head to where they see more like a periphery?
It's forward. They could definitely see forward. It's so when you have prey items, usually you see eyeballs like on an alligator or crocodile. They're up top or whatever. They have like bilateral to front vision, so they see more around them, so they can see what the fuck is going on. But these are ambush predators, so they're using that. So their eyes are set up like a little frog on top, which generally like predators right in the front. They want to see what they're hunting. Right. So these guys have. What was the original question? I think I just brain farted myself into nothing.
How do they see? Because like you said, like prey animals, eyes are positioned on the side of their head so they can see what's going on around them. But when you look at a gator,
right. And that has a lot to do with their pupil too, Andy.
What's that?
Like if you look at let's just use a goat because everybody's been up close. They have a very square pupil, like a rectangle pupil,
right? Which
gives them this real wide vision, almost to behind their hips, just by sitting in one spot. Alligators they have a slit eye, so it's kind of like
right.
They could just open and control the light. I mean, they see straight out.
Right.
Oh yeah, they can about the positioning is still, but I mean, they are underneath. It's a little different, but all the way around and forward, it's
right. I'm just trying to think of where somebody would have come up. Oh, run in a zigzag pattern, and it'll confuse the gator, and you can outrun it that way.
I think it was because the old theory that alligator can run up to 30 miles an hour on land, which I've yet to see that. I'm not saying it can happen. That if they're going straight, you run zigzag. I don't think they meant just go back and forth in front of it, just zigzag this way. Instead of running straight.
Right.
I think that's where it came from.
There's probably some correlation too with what you said though, Andy, as far as like there was probably a thought that they couldn't see in front of them.
Right.
And either a confusing pattern, like, okay, you show up on this side and now you show up on this side, and they keep turning because they can't turn quickly around themselves. The bigger guys especially aren't going to be able to turn on a dime. Now, if you have like a Cuban crocodile, pray to the Lord above and hope all works out well, because those motherfuckers will sit down, they'll gallop 25 miles an hour on land, turn on a dime too.
You gotta see Gator, one of those.
The Cuban crocodile.
With a Gator, I think they're probably Cuban crocodile. I think the problem with way back in the day that probably had something to do with it, with somebody like, oh well, if we just zigzag, maybe somebody busted their ass, went this way, that way, or whatever, and the thing got confused and walked away. So they were like, that's it, we got it. But the origin from that, I have no idea.
So what is a Cuban crocodile? Is it like a mix of just terror or what? I've never heard of a Cuban crocodile.
It's a crocodile that's from Cuba, obviously. Yeah. It's not the largest species, but it's one of the fastest. If I'm correct, I think the freshwater crocodile over in Australia has probably got everybody on speed. But the Cuban crocodile is like, anybody can look it up, YouTube or Google, Cuban crocodile gallop, and they'll literally sit there just hauling ass, bro. It's just this extremely powerful, explosive, just beast of an animal. So if you put that next to an alligator, you get a big 10-foot alligator, he comes walking up all slow and stuff. You get a 10-foot Cuban crocodile and you're close enough to shore, they'll hit that shit and come out of that water like nobody's business and just keep that speed. And that's one that you're like, okay, fuck, shit, run like a mofo.
Oh, they're cool looking animals, though. I mean, I have one. I'd go get him if you want me to bring him on.
No, you're good. You just leave him undisturbed. You're right. Australian freshwater crocodile is the fastest. And it says
leave him undisturbed.
The next are Cuban, Johnston, New Guinea, and African dwarf.
The Johnson eyes.
So I hadn't heard of any of those. I thought it was just fresh and saltwater crocodiles. I didn't know they had all these.
No, there's a shit ton of crocodiles.
Subdivisions of crocodiles.
I believe in crocodilians now, I think it's up to 28 species now. They keep splitting up like subspecies and stuff. So like our Nile crocodiles in Africa, before it was just the Nile crocodile, and they split it up to East African, West African. When there's enough differences, the scientists will come together and argue like the.
It was 26, right?
Justin just froze.
It was 26 originally.
It was
26. Different crocodiles. Yeah.
Right. So once we get Justin back, I got
alligators. Both alligators, the Chinese and the American, would be recognized. There's a Chinese alligator too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, beautiful animals. Yeah.
Oh, we might have just lost Justin. I wanted to hear how he got his head crunched real quick before we let you guys go.
Well, he should come back on.
Hopefully so. So what are you guys doing next? What's the next plan? What do you guys got coming up?
Well, we're going to do a couple, we're going to talk with you guys and go on a couple podcasts and work with some people that want to see what's up. We'll have some cryptid things coming up we'll talk about. We usually get Brittany for that. As far as we go right now, we're just going to see how the numbers go on this. We'll do a little bit of promos for Discovery Channel, see how they feel about it. We'll probably have a few meetings, I would assume, like with every time. And I would figure by the first of the year, we'll know something. That way we'd be able to let you know. I think he's going to pop back in, I think he said.
Yeah, I can send him another link if I need to.
Yeah, you can send if you need to. And I think that's what we're going to go to next. We're just going to start really playing it by ear. Now we just have to find the numbers game, see what goes on with that, what the network next move is, because at the end of the game, where the network still owns us. So they're going to tell us what we're going to do and where we're going to go. We're now a product, a brand for them. Mm-hmm. And, once you become a brand, obviously. So other than that, I think it's be good. We're still going to be doing our events. We still have events in Orlando that I go down and do all the time, and we go meet people or we do the animal presentations, and we have a lot of accounts like that. So we're just going to kind of stick with our social media. We'll keep putting behind the scenes stuff up for people to see. A lot of stuff that you didn't get to see while we were filming that we filmed, that we have. And just keep promoting it and really shooting for that second season.
Have you gotten to do any more ghost hunting?
I have not got to do that since we've been filming this for the past 7-8 months, but I think we're going to start doing that a little more. I'd really like to do that. I'd like to get back out and do a lot more of that, spiritual stuff. A lot of the stuff that we go do, I'm telling you, it turns out to be a hoax. I mean,
really?
Sometimes there's some really awesome things. I'm like, that was a great experience, and once again, you got a lot of people that just don't believe in that stuff. They think when you're dead, you're dead. And like I said, you got people that follow different, religions. And so it's a really tough situation. Like, it has to affect you the way you allow it to affect you, and I think that if you're really into that and you really want to question life other than what you've been taught, move on, which is why Justin and I are now working in working in the show, we're learning about stuff that we didn't think we'd ever look into because wasn't part of what we did. We did more of a real thing. And so I guess it's kind of all growth all the way around. Like, I would like to see something cryptid.
Right.
I would love to find a thylacine. If we could find a thylacine alive, that would be amazing. Even just to see it would be amazing.
Right.
There he is. Even just to see it would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Where would
I killed my phone.
you killed your phone? Where would be, Troy? Where would be the like the top place that you would want to go other than the abortion clinic? Like
Titty bar.
like Amityville Horror House, like any of those places. Like, do you have like a top place that you
No,
want
I
to go
wouldn't.
see?
No, I think what I would like to do is I'll answer this honestly. I think that pushing the envelope, like I said in the last podcast, is what I'd like to do, but something that's not mainstream, something that's not everybody's gone in there and done something. I want to go to where there's like some horrific murders, or that's closed off to the public, or places that you're not allowed to really go into, just to really because that's a fresh energy. I think energy is a real thing. I mean, I can explain it. Like, I think I'll use Justin for an example. When he's pissed off, the energy that he emits, everybody knows he's mad, right? It takes a lot, but once it's there, he doesn't have to say anything. It's just that energy. And a lot of times when we go in to do something like that, in a paranormal aspect, we're all energy, no matter how you look at it. It doesn't matter what your faith is. We have an energy that keeps us going. Sometimes in a negative energy place, it's the negative energy. It's not necessarily ghosts or boogeymen or any of that. It's that feeling of where you place yourself in a situation that you're aware of. And so I would like to go into some of those really dark, where there was like a lot of murders happen, like over somewhere in Europe, where those people, I was watching an episode on it last night where these people were eating people for 25 years. An incestual family was eating people for 25 years. And what would happen is they were pretty much primal. And so they'd throw them down the cliff to break them all apart. And then they would gather up the meat and eat it. And people were finding bone fragments and teeth and body parts for 25 years before they went down to the cave and found out where all the heads were collected. And there was a cannibalistic incestual family. That is the type of stuff I would like to go into that cave and just sit in there and feel, because there's going to be energy there. You're going to understand that it may be negative, but there's going to be energy. So that would be like one of my favorite things to do, like as far as in that type of world. Not necessarily looking for Billy the Kid at the OK Corral.
Nothing mainstream, like you said.
Right. I would really want to do something like that that's offbeat, that they don't want to talk about, or even going down into the catacombs. Would that be a neat thing to see?
I would
just
love
feel
that.
the energy. Yeah. I mean, that energy's there. Everything about us, our bones, everything that's about us has our energy. So you just, you've been to a place, I'm sure you've went to a home, 100%. You're like, I don't feel good in here, man. It might be pretty and there's flowers on the wall, a couple little fruits in a dish, and it looks like, what a pretty kitchen. You're like, no, man, this is
there's
just
something heavy here.
We don't need it. Yeah. And that's really what it's about, to be real. That's really what it's about.
Oh, Justin, so you got to tell us, how did you get your head crunched?
Which time?
Oh, shit. There's multiple times?
Yeah, that's 7?
7 times? Was it all? I mean, all of it was at the show, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah, if you stick your face where it doesn't belong, whether you're eating booty or putting your face in an alligator's mouth, you got dangers ahead, brother. So,
yeah, I'm sure that's
so it's eating booty. Don't stick your head where it doesn't go, man.
I've had the first one. What's funny too is like I've learned to trust my gut a little bit more, because anytime I've ever had a serious bite, I've called it every time. So my first time I ever got bit and the face was underwater. And I still had my bite. I was a pretty big boy, and I was able to work his jaws just enough to get my face out real quick. And it was a quick thing. Like, he held on, and I was able to. He was off balance because we're in the water and stuff, so he gave just a little bit for me to sneak out. But that morning, I had said it. I was like, "Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna get fucking bit today." And then
energy.
The finger one. Like, when I lost my finger, my brother. It was a competition that the Seminole tribe does. For alligator handling, the old school freestyle, they call it, because you're allowed to pretty much put your own spin on it, and then they'll judge you based on like 5 different things, like how aggressive is your alligator, how's your handling, where are you putting your hands, like and then the danger of the stunts. Obviously they do all that. And my brother picked me up that morning, and I was like, I'm getting fucked up today. And he was like, what? And I was like, I could just feel it, there's something off, there's something wrong or whatever. And fucking boom, lost my finger. So I've learned now that like if I have that feeling going into it, I'm just like, all right, tomorrow's another day. Like we won't do it or whatever. And I'll cancel that shit out for that point in time. But I can't. One of my alligators that I still have, Blackie, she bit me in the face more than any other alligator. But she's very sweet as far as an alligator goes. Like if she gets food in her mouth, she knows it's food, and she'll like if you try and take it from her, she's taking it. But every time she's ever bit me, it's an instant release. Like she'll slam down hard, so I'll get the holes and shit, and I'll get some stuff or whatever. But she's always let me go. Not saying that could happen every single time or whatever. I'm just saying I think there's enough of a relationship there where she's like, okay, I like there's something in my mouth or whatever. I know it's not. It ain't food. We're in the middle of a show, and she lets go. It was one wild alligator where the skull got crushed, and he put one through there's like a little scar on my ear here. So that went through into the back of my head, and I had a couple up front. And then there was another female that had grazed. I knew she was going to close, and I had ripped my face out right before she did. So I grazed my cheeks. I had 2 blood marks right where the teeth started to touch, and then she caught. Man, my beard's starting to grow in or whatever. So she caught here, and she had split the lip all the way in 2, but I was able to get out fast enough where it was just that left over afterwards. And again, all my fault, but you put your face where it doesn't belong, and bad shit can happen. With those alligators, they have these little ISOs. They're sensors. Every little black dot you see around their mouth is a little sensor. So like if they're in the water hanging out and a fish comes by or whatever, they feel that, boom, they slap. And that's why people, especially
it's automatic. It's automatic. People need to understand it's automatic.
Right.
They're not consciously doing it. It just happened. Their body does it itself.
Right.
Yeah. So if I have the mouth open, and my face is in there, she can't see that my face is in there. She can't feel it. But if I touch wrong, or if I'm sweating and something falls in the back of that mouth or something touches the outside of the mouth that's not already being touched or whatever, it's going to trigger the jaws to slam shut.
Right. What about the bicep?
The bicep was Master Blaster. I don't know if I have a picture of him on the wall just yet or whatever. He was a big old boy, and nobody really wanted to do anything with him at that point. It was myself and my buddy, rest in peace, James Holt. Him and I would use that alligator. James was a big old Seminole boy, like a big dude. And so for us, it doesn't really it looks bad when we're on a small alligator. Like it just looks like we're crushing the poor thing or whatever. So we used bigger alligators, and still do, because it looks a little bit better. And then on top of that, we have the length and the leverage to be able to do it. And Master Blaster, nobody really did shows with at that time. And I loved doing shows with him. I didn't have to do much. He would get up and hit. When his jaws slammed, it sounded like a shotgun, and it got the crowd going. And we would do our show, and that was it. One day, I had some people stop by. I'll never forget it, because it was a buddy of mine that came with like his family. The kid was there, and he was like, I watched the Gator boys, and this is all I want to do. And, can you show us? So I hopped in the pit and did like a little demonstration, and I had got on the back of Master Blaster. So I had him caught, and he rolled underneath me. And what I should have done was either got off as he was rolling and recaptured, or kept my feet or my knees on the ground and let him roll. But he was so big that I really couldn't even do that. So I stood up over top of him. And when he got upright, I went to reposition myself, but his face was so long, wild type alligator. So his face was so long that he was able to reach back before I got down, and he grabbed just the inside of my bicep. And I remember hearing my buddy clear as day, "Oh, we got you." And I'm not thinking much, because I had been bit so many times. So I'm like, okay, we'll just roll this out, same as we do every other one. Then I felt this amazing sensation. At the time, I'm like 250, 255 pounds. And I feel this amazing sensation of my feet leaving the floor. And I was like, this is different. And then he tosses me basically over the front of him. So he takes me off the back of him over the front. So he's laying this way, I'm this way, perpendicular. So my arm's out, I'm on my back now, and I'm watching him this way. And I saw his leg come up, and I was like, well, here we go. Nothing I could do about it at that time. Mm-hmm. He's 10.5 foot plus, probably a good 6 650 at the time. And once I saw that leg come up, I was like, well, like, I mean, there's really nothing I could do here but just sit here and take it. So he rolled, and we like the sound, the pop that it made. I was like, well, there goes the gun. That's the first thing I thought. Like, it was boom, and that's what that loud pop was. It literally was the separation of my bicep that had snapped so hard that it sounded like literally somebody taking a baseball bat and slamming it against a tree. And then I got up, calm as shit. I looked around, and my buddy's kid who had wanted to do this, mind you, he's like 10. He's running back and forth. You're so fucked. You're so fucked. You're so fucked. And I'm like, oh, calm down, man. Everything's going to be cool, bro. Like, everything's going to be fine. And I'm looking at this mangled mess of hamburger meat. My buddy takes his shirt off, wraps it, and I go to the front, right? And into the office where the ladies are. And I leaned my head in, and I was like, hey, can you call the ambulance? And they were like, yeah, no problem, because this is normal shit for them. They're like, yeah, whatever.
We got it.
Did some shit or whatever, and then I sat down by the door, and now I have a pool of blood around me, right? Because he had severed all 3 major arteries. So I'm sitting there, and I'm staying calm, but at the same time, I'm like, I saw before I wrap this thing up, and I'm seeing the pool of blood that I'm sitting in. So I'm like, well, I don't know how fucked we are here on this one, boys. So first the police show up, and the guy's got his gun and everything, and I'm like, what?
Right.
He's like, where's it at? And I'm like, calm down. Like, nobody's shooting the alligator. Like, fucking, what are you going to do, arrest them, bro?
Right.
Like, calm the fuck down. Like, this has already happened. Like, I need paramedics. I don't need you here. But it happened to work out perfectly. When the paramedics got there, my buddy John was there with me, and he's like, can you move your hand? I was like, yeah, I can move my hand. He's like, oh, you'll be working out on Monday. It'll be fine. And then the paramedic was like, can I unwrap this? I got to tell the hospital what we're about to get into. And I was like, whatever you got to do. And he unwrapped it, and you could see the blood drain from John's face. And he turned and walked away, and I was like, don't do that. Wait, no. Like, I had no confidence at that point. And the police showing up saved my life, because they cleared out every road from that place to the hospital and just kept blocking traffic. And the ambulance was able to get me there in time. Any longer than that, and I would have bled out.
Right. Did they apply tourniquets or whatever to you? I'm assuming it's just all hands on deck trying to get the bleeding stopped.
Yeah, they had.
That tourniquet probably would have helped, Jay.
They got the straps on there and shit. And
Cops did.
It was a rough spot, because like the way that it was mangled, they were trying to close it off, but they were also trying like to save whatever meat and shit was hanging. They were trying to like put it back in or whatever. They were like, just shoving it, wrap it. So they did the tourniquet, wrapped the shirt back on there. But I remember the ambulance ride. You know, you got this big, huge jack dude that I know, because every Saturday night we did a show, and the ambulance was there with us when we did the show, just in case some shit went down. So I know these guys, and they've also taken me to the hospital before. So the dude's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I could see this look on his face. I was like, I'm gonna lose the arm, right? And he's like, no. And I was like, hesitation, bro, hesitation. Like, it's gone. I'm fucked. He's like, no, don't think like that. Don't think like that. And then, they got me out of the ambulance, and I remember a couple of lights going over, and then it was just, I'm out after that. And by the time I woke up, there's a bunch of people.
Well, lost Justin again.
We had a bunch of
we got him back.
It was a phone call. We had a bunch of surgeries and shit afterwards. I think I went through 8 in about 2 months of shit at the hospital and whatnot, but I had some really, really, really good people. Some people from the war that were surgeons over there, used to body parts being blown apart and shit like that. So they put me back together best they could.
How long until you're jumping on another gator?
Believe it or not, I got a phone call from the tribe, and it was from HR. All these departments are so separate, right? So I get a phone call, and they're like, hey, like, to qualify for a leave of absence, you had to be there for 2 years. I was there for like 10 days less than 2 years. I was like, give me a break, bro. Like, really?
Right.
They were like, well, your position will be open afterwards. So I told the doctors, I was like, you got to let me out. And the fucking plastic surgeon was like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, I am not, no way. And I was like, I don't have to do anything. I just have to be there to supervise. I don't have to touch anything, none of that shit. So reluctantly, he signs off, right? I go back to work. Like the day I get out of the hospital, I go home. The next day, I'm back at work. Mind you, like the skin that they use to put from my legs to put back on there, it's still stapled on there. It's still healing and shit. And then I think it was about a month after that, my buddy John was like, I gotta go. You got to do the show. And I was like, you're fucking with me, right? And he's like, no, you got to do the show. And I was like, how do you want me to do that? And so a month after I was out of the hospital, he needed it. And I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I'll just do it with one hand. So I dragged an alligator out, and that was probably the only time doing an alligator show where I was like a little uncomfortable. I was like, okay, I got to get back into it. I kept thinking about how it happened the first time, and now like I don't have two hands to operate with, so I have to jump on from the back. If you watch me catch an alligator, generally now I'll try and go for the front first, just because I always have that fear of like he's going to come back and grab the same arm. Mm-hmm. So now it was a month after the hospital. I was back on an alligator, and once I did it that first time, after that, the guy was like, I have to do them until you're ready. And I was like, I'm good, let's do it. So we did it, one-handed for a little while. And believe it or not, the only reason I have the range of motion in my arm that I do, I can't get all the way there, but I couldn't touch this is my dominant arm too. So I learned how to shave with my left hand, how to brush my teeth. Everything was left-handed at that point. And I did physical therapy. It didn't help much. But I would do these alligator shows, and I always wanted to go balls to the walls. I always wanted to. Like now I'm older, so now like if I do an alligator show, it's just a simple show. Like I'll do my stuff, and then I'm out. Before, the face was always in the mouth. We always did the most extreme show with the angriest alligator we could find. That was just it. And I still wanted that, and I couldn't reach my hands to my head to put my face in an alligator's mouth, so I would do it off the alligator, which you have no control if anything happens. So I kept trying more and more and more, and it was me trying to get my face in the alligator's mouth that I think gave me the range of motion that I have, because I just kept fighting it every day. I'm just like, I'll get there, and closer, and now I can have that range of motion.
Yeah, and I mean, it's probably one of those things like you got to get back on it, right? Like if you wait too long, you're going to build it up too much in your head.
Well, I equate it to some people jump out of planes, man. Some people like Troy will get on his bike and haul ass down the road or whatever. And, everybody's got their thing. And the reality of it is I could walk out right now and get hit by a car on the side of the street.
Yeah.
Like you never know when you're going to go. So what's the point of stopping something if you love it? I can't say it like that. I get why some people would stop certain things to be like, I'd like to live longer, so I'm going to stop doing this because this happened or whatever. But for me, I was like, I don't want to change the way I live because this happened. Like, I want to continue doing what I was doing. And I think that's just the reality of it for me, at least. Like, I got one life to live, and I'd like to live it the way that I want to live it. And for me to back off of what I loved and enjoyed, I didn't see the point in that.
Yeah.
Right on.
Very, very, very cool. Listen, you guys are awesome. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys. And we've been going just under 2 hours almost. So we appreciate you guys. The show is awesome. I wish you all the best. I hope I hope you guys get renewed for season 2. I love what you guys did, and stay safe out there. We got some big changes coming up here in the next couple of months, so we're ready for that here in Texas. You guys stay safe out there. Enjoy the holidays, and we'd love to do this again sometime.
We will.
We'd love to. Be great.
Thank you guys very much. And
thank you very much.
Appreciate you. Y'all be safe out there, okay, guys?
You as well, Andy, Jeff.
See you guys.
Guys, have a good day.
Bye. All right, boys and girls, that is it. Troy and Justin from the Lost Monster Files. Go check it out. It's on Discovery now, and it's on some of the streaming platforms now. So, love you. Bye. Watch for deer. Check out all of our sponsors. Go check out Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Podcast, Shin Gear, Dirty Duck Coffee, Bull and Briar Leather, Ducks Unlimited, Dive Bomb Industries, Pacific Calls, Boss Shot Shells, Mossberg, Stanfield Outfitters, MLR Graphics, Mallard Bay, Hemp Hill Farm. Use our promo code BHP, and Mitch Hall Chevrolet.